Hey everyone, my name is Michael Dominguez. I'm a strategic alliance manager with Avalara. That means I'm a partner manager, manage the Infor Direct partnership, as well as a partnership with Crossroads, one of our valued partners, and really excited to share this case study with one of our mutual customers, which is Badger Meter. And I'll go ahead and let you introduce yourself, Nu.
I'm a staff accountant, and most of my focus daily is with taxes. So I'm the person who would use Avalara majority of the time.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Nu. So what we're going to do is maybe a little bit different from this format that people may be used to. I'm just going to share a couple of just quick slides about Avalara for those of you who may not be familiar with us. So for those of you who aren't familiar with Avalara, we're a global tax company. So we help with everything from sales tax to exemption certificates, VAT. We're going to touch on that when we talk to Nu a little bit more for how Badger Meter utilizes Avalara to help them with their tax compliance needs. So really think of any type of global tax compliance need you may have, Avalara can help you with. And we are definitely an agentic tax platform. And then here's a little bit more information. Avalara has now been in business for 22 years. We have over 200,000 customers worldwide. We operate in 190 countries. That's really important because Badger Meter has global operations, so we've been able to support them. And then I really like this slide. It shows why Avalara can help your companies with speed, accuracy, and scale, how quick our Avatax calculations are. The seamless integrations that we have with Infor and LX is just one example. And then just really the reliability. Our platform is really unique. We call it active with respect to using AWS, Google Cloud, Oracle Cloud. So Avalara is always up and running to support you in your tax compliance needs. So that is all I am going to talk about with respect to Avalara, and really I'm more excited about talking with Nu a little bit. Nu, if you wouldn't mind just kind of sharing your experience, how long you've been using Avalara, how it's helped you like automate your tax compliance and kind of like your Avalara journey, if you will.
Yeah, before Avalara, everything was used through LX, and everything was kind of coded manually and by individual ship tos. But with Avalara, it's become a lot easier, especially with rooftop location calculation, because before it would be like an order would come through, and then you would have to determine if the ship to is within the city or outside of the city. But now with Avalara will just automatically calculate that and verify that based upon the
Excellent.
ship to address.
So how long, like when you were doing that, Nu, were you using sales tax tables that you would have to like research to identify the correct location?
Right. I was doing that for like 5 years, and I was like, that is a lot, especially with hundreds of orders every day.
I'm sure. And can you tell us a little bit about Badger Meter? You all are a global company. What exactly do you all do? Just for the audience.
We manufacture like water meter and any kind of water or flow instrumentation, like little um, instruments where it lets out dyes or water or gas or any kind of measurement of anything that goes through some sort of meter. That's what we would produce. And then now we're also providing beacon services. So it allows our customers to monitor all the information that goes through these meters. And doing that, Avalara is helping us figuring out which state these services are exempt in, and which
Mhm.
state some of the services is exempt, like a portion. It's weird, but
Right,
Avalara is helping us guide us through that. Like Texas, uh, it's exempt like 80%, which is weird.
right.
So then you have to calculate for the rest.
Exactly. Yeah, and for the audience, you probably are all very familiar with, but since 2018, with the Supreme Court ruling of ruling in favor of South Dakota over the furniture company Wayfair, it ruled that companies not only had to worry about their physical nexus, right, where they're physically based, but also economic nexus. So what New's talking about is that he has responsibility. Do you do business in all 50 states, New?
Yes, our company does sales in pretty much every state, even the states that don't have any taxes. So Avalara
Sure.
helps us with all of those states, and gathering all of those information for us is vital to filing tax returns every month.
Yeah, and that's important for the audience to understand is that since that Supreme Court ruling in 2018, the federal government basically ruled that the states would be responsible for establishing those economic nexus thresholds. So usually on average, it's about sales wise around $100,000 or around 200 transactions, but that's not standard for every state. Every state's different. And so what Avalara is helping Badger Meter with and all of our customers with is making sure that is being, number one, accurately calculated. And then like New mentioned, making sure that if your customers are exempt, that's also taking into keeping that in mind, and especially for manufacturers, because we probably have manufacturers on this call. It's really important to remember that just because you may not collect sales tax because you're primarily doing business to business, you will have some type of an exemption certificate management responsibility, because in most states, those exempt sales do count towards your transaction threshold. So that's just something to keep in consideration. And Avalara helps new and other customers automatically, not only making sure that it's being taxed accurately, but also making sure that those exempt customers are being accounted for and included in those transactions. And I feel we're kindred spirits, New. So in my previous life, I've only been with Avalara for 4 years, coming up in July. But in my previous life, I used to run a large winery, but for the first full year, I was in charge of compliance. So I had to work with my accountant for getting all of the licenses to ship wine into those states, direct to consumer, wholesale. We had to do, kind of like you said, location by location, right, for collecting or remitting sales tax where we did
Right.
business in. And it took so much time. Like my accountant and I we basically lived at the winery because it was a lot to do manually, right? And so this was, can't believe I'm saying this, 15 years ago when I was responsible for that aspect of it. But what I like to remind customers and people on this call is that compliance isn't a revenue generating activity, right? It's obligatory. And if there's any way you can automate it, like New and Badger Meter has, I'm sure that helps free you up, New, to do other tasks, right? To help your company, to help Badger Meter as you all continue to grow. And it sounds like, so you're a global company, right? Would you mind sharing a little bit how Avalara has maybe helped you on some of the aspects when it comes to global operations, such as VAT?
With that, I don't have any experience with that since I mostly handle the U.S. and
Oh,
Canada
okay,
transactions. But then, yeah, our other subsidiaries in Europe, they handle all of the VAT items, and they're also on Avalara too.
excellent. Yeah, and that's something important to share here with the audience is that Avalara again can help with the global operations, such as Badger Meter's experience to help with that. And then also we can support e-invoicing if you all are familiar with that, because that's beginning to be mandated in several countries overseas now and may eventually happen here in the United States. So Avalara has a solution for that as well. And it gets complicated enough, right, for the domestic
Yeah,
tax considerations,
it
right? News.
does.
So I think those global guys kind of get it a little easier than we do with respect to all of the different rule changes, and that's something important to keep in mind as well. for those of you who are running, the tax compliance operations in your company, is that the rules are always changing, right? We usually see about 100,000 tax rule changes a year, and there's over 12,000 jurisdictions within the United States. And Avalara has an entire content team that's updating the content to make sure that it's up to date. And then also, we obviously have the integration with LX and AvaTax to automatically make sure, like New mentioned, that those taxes are being calculated accurately to the rooftop level. I did want to touch a little bit on, obviously you're very familiar with the tax calculation side. You work with the invoices, New. What is your experience with exemption certificates?
I think with exemption certificates, with Avalara, I think that's been pretty easy, pretty smooth. All you have to do is just pretty much take the PDF document and then upload it into the customer's account. And then Avalara will have its own OCR scanning AI ability to just pull all that data out and then enter into the requirement field for you. And then all you have to do is just pretty much click to verify the sales tax license. And then after that, once it verifies, then you're pretty much good to go to select accept. And then that's all you have to do. It's pretty straightforward with the certificates. Now, of course, AI can do that. It's just on the person who's managing it. Now, you have to make sure that the certificate's a valid certificate for those type of transactions. Otherwise, pretty much everything, once you have it already corrected, it's easy to put through Avalara.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'll add a bit of color to that as well. With Avalara's exemption certificate management tool, like New said, we're not only helping your companies, verify that they're valid exemption certificates, but we can help your companies with active campaigns, sending out email reminders, right? Because in different states, there's different requirements. Sometimes exemption certificates last forever. Sometimes you have to renew them annually. And it's also important to remember that if there's any type of change in ownership, exemption certificates also had to be updated with that respect. And to give some examples, because Avalara has done some studies on the impact of a missing exemption certificate, basically the cost of missing one exemption certificate can be like up to $43,000, because what you have to keep in mind is that if you were to be audited, when auditors come through, they would do a quick survey, and especially for manufacturers and distributors, exemption certificates are like the low-hanging fruit that auditors usually go after, because it's easy to do a survey of, say, hey, you say you have 100 exemption certificates that you manage, let's pull 5 or 10. Let's just do a small sample set. And if they quickly realize that, they're expired exemption certificates, which is easy to see, right? It's just a date. Or if the information is incorrect, then they start digging a lot more. And so that example of the one missing exemption certificate being up to $43,000, because if you think about it, if they do a 3-year look back, they charge 8% at like $1,200 a month, it all adds up, right? And it could snowball pretty quickly. And so we get a lot of feedback from prospects. It's like, well, you're looking at the cost benefit analysis, right? If you're to use Avalara, but you also need to take in consideration what's the cost of paying, fines and fees for missing exemption certificates, because you're not managing it well, right? And it could be a severe. I mean, New knows doing it manually, it just takes so much time. And like when I did compliance management for the winery, I was doing everything in Excel. My accountant helped me with an Access database, for those of you who remember Access. And I know we made mistakes, right? Because we were doing it manually, and it becomes really, really challenging. And then what I also like to share with partners, customers like yourself, New, is that within the integration with LX, since we're automatically keeping all that valuable tax calculation information, your company have an audit trail, right? It's very easy to reference the transactions because everything's based off of invoices. And so since we have that integration, it's just a lot easy to pull everything. I remember at the winery, uh, we had to have an audit. It was just basically, I had a file cabinet full with, certificates for licenses and we still have companies that we work with, and if we even do on-site visits, the accountant or the compliance tax manager will just like point to like these file cabinets, and it's just like, there's going to be
Yeah.
expired exemption certificates in there, right? So
Yep.
it's it's a lot to manage. And maybe if you wouldn't mind, New, since you're so familiar with Avalara, how was like the setup on like LX? How was your journey with like getting set up to be able to automatically manage, sales tax and the exemption certificates? How was your journey in that respect?
I think my journey with it was that it was a pretty challenging um, implementation kind of thing, just because our company, we have so many customers and so many orders, and then we have so many, you would call it like historical customers that have been with us for such a long time. We have a long list of all of their orders, and then just being able to update all of those was pretty challenging. And then once all of those were updated, then uh, any orders going forward, Avalara was able to manage it much easier. And so
Right,
uh, instead of a certificate expiring, Avalara
right,
will tell us this is about to expire. They'll send us email notifying us, and then we can, through Avalara, we can just click send a notification to the customer. The customer can reply and upload it straight into Avalara. That way, we would know all of these customers are being looked after, rather than us having to dig into all of the data, all of the uh, Excel information, seeing who's owing us some sort of paperwork or documentation and stuff
sure.
like that.
Yeah, no, I remember it takes a lot of time trying to like just go through Excel. And I had help with my accountant because he was really good in Excel and Access for like lookup and all these different things to try to like make it easier, but it's very difficult to do it manually. So what I'm hearing is that at least for the startup, it was really important to have like good hygiene of all the data that you were bringing over to Avalara, right? So we can properly know all your customers, know when an invoice comes through that these customer or their customers are exempt, right? And so, and yeah, we hear that because we work with global companies like yourself, multinational corporations, and massive amount of customers, right? And so it definitely, that process, from what I understand, not being an implementation person at Avalara, but more on the partner manager sales side, that it can take a lot of time, right? But I think for the purpose of the people attending this webinar, for those who watch the recording, just keep in mind that for any type of upgrade in software or integration, you want to make sure that you're having good data hygiene, right? And being able to be ready to do that potential upgrade to automate your processes. And so how long, so you had to do your tax compliance manually for 5 years, New. How long have you been using Avalara now?
I've been using it since the start of it, so about like 7 years or
Okay,
7.5 years now, and it's
ex-
improved a lot of the processes that we have.
excellent. Would you say that it's saved you time to help work on other projects or um, things as you have come in?
Definitely, it has. I think in just a month, I think just managing the rates for all of the states, that takes at least a few days to go and manually update our old system. But now with Avalara, it's automatically updated. So that already knocks out 3 days out of the month for me. Just doing
Yeah.
that.
Yeah, no, that's great feedback, and that's pretty consistent, especially for global companies like yourselves, like what we hear and case studies that we've done before, really across the Infor connectors, especially with but for like large manufacturers, distributors like yourself, because there's so many customers, right? And there's so many invoices that Avalara can help you just automate that. So that's really great for us to hear. How is your journey like if you have any type of like uh, issues or anything like that? How can maybe if you could explain to the audience how Avalara helps support you on any questions that you may have?
I think that like most of my daily issues are where it comes down to some customers' knowledge of sales tax is at. Some of
Mhm.
them think that they can provide us with W-9s or with different types of documents, and so it's easy to be able to go into Avalara and pull up. Uh, Avalara has a uh, little selection where you can pull from the library, and they have resources where you can pull documents for a certain type of transactions, and then you can provide that to the customer, letting them know these are what's required for the state, and that they
Right.
need to complete that rather than providing you with a tax license or a W-9 or something that doesn't cover any of the sales tax stuff.
No, I get it. It seems like a lot of it, it's just education, right?
Mhm.
Because a lot of times it may not be um, an accountant tax manager like yourself that you're talking with, right? It could be a warehouse person or something. And I think you're talking about our knowledge center, and that where you can pull information to help share with your customers, to get you the right information that you need. It's funny you talk about W-9s and so 1099. So for those of you who aren't familiar, and since you have such a um, big portfolio of what you manage in just sales tax alone, but Avalara does support customers on 1099s as well now, to help seamlessly manage that, because that, as you know, is also a very manual process as well. So Avalara can help customers with managing their 1099s. I just thought of that because they send you your 1099s, right, when you're probably looking for sales tax information or exemption certificates or something. Um, so now you know. But I think really for me, having run a large business, and seeing, talking to mutual customers like yourself, new, talking to partners every day, um, I think where Avalara helps it helps your business, right? It's more of a business decision because time is money, right? And you mentioned that it has saved you, 3 days out of the month where you can do other tasks that are important to really help your company grow. Um, would you see? Trying to think of what other type of. We talked about audit readiness. We talked about reducing, the manual effort there at Badger Meter. Um, And then again, just a reminder to everyone that Avalara has a massive content team, so we're always updating the product rules, taxability rules, and how does Badger Meter, when you look at kind of like your tax compliance, do you all like have like a roadmap or areas where you want to like further automate your tax compliance? I know you're extremely busy just trying to like manage everything right now, but have you all, I'm just curious, like looked at AI, like has that helped you? I'm kind of like looking towards the future and maybe how Avalara can help you even more.
Yeah, right now we're trying to make sure all of our historical data is clean per
Mhm.
state, so that way we can start having Avalara automate tax filings for every state. And then we use the AI reports to pull information by the state too. So that way, the ones that we currently don't have automated to be filed through SST, we can use
Oh, that's
those
great.
reports.
Right.
We can use those reports to just um, to edit and kind of let us know where the sales are for the state, county, and city. That makes it
Right.
easier for us to file rather than trying to figure out, like in Washington, like it's easier for us to pull those reports than to um, trying to figure out, well, this goes to Snohomish City and County, but which rate in
Right.
that county does it belong to? While
Right.
Avalara can just show us, hey, it goes to this one. Okay, so then we could just apply to that one, saving us a lot of time rather than trying to figure out how much the tax rate is different by.
Right. No, I'm really glad you brought up the SST program. So for those of you who aren't familiar with that, New is referencing our streamlined sales tax program. And I believe it's up to 24 states. So for those companies that are attending this webinar or watch the recording, it's basically an agreement that Avalara has with the different states out there to automatically file your sales tax, calculate them right, but also file the returns. And it's helps tremendously with efficiencies, right? Because the more states that join the program, the easier it is for companies like Badger Meter to manage their sales tax obligations. And so, yeah, I'm really glad you mentioned the SST program. And then again, it's a certain number. I think we're up to 24, but obviously since Badger Meter does business, it seems like in all 50 states, it's definitely a worthwhile program for you all that are attending the webinar or watching the recording to keep in mind. Absolutely. That I'm really glad you mentioned that because it is a really important program and really kind of helps you future proof your tax compliance, right? Especially like you're doing because you're keeping it very organized by the states, keeping us updated, working together with Avalara, and then obviously working with your VAR with Crossroads and our partner as well. I'm
Right, and
trying.
also with SST, you're less likely to be audited, and if you are, the SST team will help manage that audit for you. So that makes it a lot easier, less of a
Yeah,
headache.
it gives you some peace of mind as well, right?
Yeah,
So
it
yeah,
does.
absolutely. Yeah, that's a great point. I'm glad that you mentioned that. Yep, Avalara will definitely cover the cost of an audit under the SST program. Absolutely, it's a great program. I think it's one of the best programs that Avalara has for large companies like yourself, New, that are doing operations in so many states because it is so much to manage. I can't believe you did this manually for 5 years. Like I'm still like, how in the world? But I think I don't know, New. Do you have anything else you may want to add? I don't know if there's like if this is a good time to like if anyone in the audience has any questions or
I think like one of the biggest benefit to Avalara is the resource library that is part of TTR. I think that's the biggest one of the biggest resources that I use because
okay,
most of the time when customers are asking me, "Hey, new, what can I provide you with this certificate? Will this be acceptable?" Or
right,
sometimes when a transaction looks kind of strange to me, I can go into that resource and look into it. And if there's certain laws that aren't as clear, I can
mhm,
also send an email uh, to the TTR team, which is
okay,
supposed to be which is supposed to have like tax lawyers behind it doing all the research for you, and then
absolutely.
in a day or so they'll provide you with the answer, and then from there you can work on that.
Yeah, no, I'm definitely glad you brought that up. So TTR is one of the companies that Avalara acquired a few years ago, and just like News said, everyone, it can help you to the point of making sure that you're getting those correct, legal answers for doing business in those states. And we also have a product called Avalara Tax Research. It's very similar to TTR, but it's using more AI. Where we have a chat bot, her name is Avi, who really can ask simple questions. I mean, I've been playing around with Avalara Tax Research, and it would have been an amazing tool to have when I was at the winery because you ask it basic, simple questions like, "What is the tax rate in this jurisdiction?" or "What is the product taxability for this particular meter?" I'm sure you all, sell a Badger meter in this state, right? And it can get really refined, um, specific information. And what I like to share, because I do a lot of presentations throughout the United States, is that it's a lot different than using ChatGPT or maybe even any of the other search tools out there. If you all are using like, Gemini from Google, because Avalara has that proprietary information with the states for the last 22 years, right? So you could do a Google search, and I did Google searches at the winery, but I didn't know if it was correct. So like what I had to do is, if I wasn't sure because I wasn't getting a right, I my mind just didn't feel good about the search result. I had to call the state, right, and try to get someone from the state on the line. And sometimes the people from the state don't even know. And so I don't know if you've dealt with that before, New, but sometimes like it's like they don't even know. So that just gives you another peace of mind with a tool like Avalara Tax Research, TTR, where you're getting a no kidding correct response back, because it's really important, because you're managing this tax compliance and you want to make sure that it's being done correctly. So
Yeah.
I'm really, yeah.
I think a recent example of using that Avi AI bot was when we started selling warranties, and I was like, is that a completely covered service, or is it exempt in different states? Because we have like multiple states now, multiple states handle it differently. And then
Sure.
Avi was able to tell me, in these states, this is exempt, in these states, they're taxable. And then it'll pull up all of the links that you can click on and go look into and read it yourself as backup.
Yeah, no, that's a great point. You're right. That's what I like about it as well, is that it'll actually give you the links to the state websites, to the Department of Revenue websites, to like specific there, like where you feel good because you know it's coming from the actual source, right? Not
Right.
from another search of Wikipedia or something. So yeah, it's we definitely have the sources again with those proprietary agreements with the different state departments of revenue. And no, that's it's there's a lot of different tools that it sounds like Avalara has been able to help you with respect to automating your tax compliance. And I'm looking for, I don't know if we have like questions from the audience, or
We do
um
not. We do not.
oh, I didn't hear you, Sandra.
Oh, no question.
No questions right now. Okay. Do you have anything else you want to add, New? I think this has been a lot of fun, other than maybe some of the PTSD from managing my winery compliance back in the day. But
Yeah,
again, I
completely
just like,
understand it.
I you're the man for being able to do it manually for 5 years. But I'm glad that Avalara has been able to help you over the last 7 years, and making sure it's done accurately, right? Which is so critical, to keep you off the radar of the auditors out there.
Right.
So yeah, and no, I'm just really grateful uh, for the LX community, for you, New, and for Badger Meter as a very valued customer, for Crossroads as our partner, and just really enjoyed this case study, and asking you questions and how your experience has been.
Yeah,
Thank you for inviting me.
Yeah, I'd like to thank both of you. I'm Sandra Mueller. I'm on the LX User Group Board. We try to do these webinars monthly, and we appreciate when customers and partners can come on to just talk through how solutions help them. And I just want to promote, we have the best LX show coming in September 14th through 17th. It's called Empower. And it's where these type of conversations happen in the hallways, and you learn a lot about what other LX users and customers and vendors have to offer and are doing. And I highly encourage everyone to look into that and register today. We are bringing in a big AI push this year where we're going to talk about where AI can help us as we're working in LX, XA, and System 21. So just thank everyone, and we appreciate the attendees. Have a good day. Thank you, Michael. You orchestrated that beautifully with the conversation. And thank you, New, for attending.
Thank you so much, New. Hopefully, I'll be there at Empower and looking forward to meeting more people in person.
That's great. I'll find you over bacon.
Sounds good.
All right.
Bye.
Right, bye.